Hi class, in this video I'm going to go over some of the models for the urinary system. Okay, so these here are the kidneys. This would be the renal artery and renal vein. Okay, these here are the adrenal glands on top of the kidneys. Okay, from the kidneys, right, urine gets filtered into these long tube structures here. There would be one on each side, but it's not shown on this side. These are the ureters. Okay, so ureters. Okay, this down here is the bladder, so I'm just going to turn it around to the posterior side. Okay, so this is where the ureters enter into the bladder, and I'm going to open the bladder up. Okay, so here we have the trigon of the bladder. Okay, so where the two ureters enter, and then the internal urethral orifice starts here. Okay, that makes up the trigon of the bladder. The bladder has rugae inside of it as well, because it's just like a holding sac for urine. So when it fills with urine, it can expand, and then when we expel the urine, it can go back to its normal size. And then this here would be the urethra. Okay, so those are the major structures of the urinary system. Okay, now let's go a little bit deeper. So let's look at our kidney here. Okay, so this here is the hilus. This is where the renal artery enters, the renal vein exits, and we have our ureter exiting the kidney as well. Okay, renal capsule is this outer covering here of connective tissue. Okay, renal capsule. Different regions of the kidney that we have. This outer region here is the cortex. Okay, before you get to the pyramids, and this area, which includes the pyramids, is the medulla of the kidney. Okay, these here are the medullary pyramids, and the very tip of these pyramids, like right here, this is the papilla. Okay, these here, these like little circles here, are also considered papilla. Okay, so there are nephrons within these medullary pyramids here. Okay, they drain into a collecting duct, then a papillary duct, and then urine flows into these minor calyces. Okay, those drain into the major calyx, and then that drains into the renal pelvis. Okay, so minor calyces, those drain into a major calyx, and then this larger area, the renal pelvis, then into the ureter, then into the bladder, and then the urethra to be expelled. Okay, this whole area here is known as a renal lobe. Okay, so it includes the pyramid and these areas in between the pyramids known as the renal columns. Okay, renal columns. Perfect. Okay, let's take a look at this one here. Okay, so this is another kidney model. It's the one on this, kind of goes deeper and deeper into the, so this is the kidney, this is one pyramid, and this here is the renal corpuscle. Okay. Okay, so let's just take a look here quickly. I'm just going to go through the different arteries and veins that you need to know. Okay, so here we have the renal artery and vein. Then it breaks off into the segmental artery and vein. Okay, then here, this would be the interlobar. It's in between the lobes, right? It's in like the column area. So these are the interlobar artery and veins. Don't get confused. So on one of the quizzes, it used an outdated term, interlobular. Okay, so that would be these. They're now called the cortical radiate arteries and veins. Okay, so these here are the interlobar arteries and veins. This here is the arcuate artery and vein, and then the cortical radiate artery and vein. And you see it like radiates out into the cortex, so that's why it's called cortical radiate. Okay, these here are nephrons. Okay, So we'll get into that when we look at the pyramid. So let's look at the renal pyramid here. So here we have our interlobar artery and vein. Okay, then these here going across, labeled 7, would be our arcuate artery and vein, and then these here would be the cortical radiate artery and vein. These here are the paratubular capillaries. Okay, so this is where anything that we reabsorb is reabsorbed into these paratubular capillaries here. Okay, this here is the renal corpuscle. Okay, so it's made up of a Bowman's capsule in white here surrounding this area, which is just capillary, an area of capillaries. That's known as the glomerulus. Okay, then we have our proximal convoluted tubule. Okay, our descending limb, which has a thick and a thin region. Okay, this whole thing is a nephron loop. This would be the ascending limb. And then our distal convoluted tubule. Then the filtrate goes into this collecting duct, and at the bottom here, so this is the papillary region, this would be the papillary duct. Okay, and then remember that drains into the minor calyx, then major calyx, then renal pelvis, then ureter, then bladder. Okay. This here is a cortical nephron. Okay, it's mostly in the cortex. It does go into the medulla area a little bit. And this here would be a juxtamedullary nephron. Okay, so this is for making more concentrated urine. It's a lot longer. It goes into like the papillary region of the renal pyramid. Okay. And all of these little like white ball areas, those are all renal corpuscles. Okay, but these ones are showing them open where you can see the glomerulus and the renal capsule, okay, on the outside. Okay, this here is showing a renal corpuscle. Okay, so this here would be the afferent arteriole, okay, leading in. Okay, these cells would be the podocyte cells. Okay, so this here is like the visceral layer, and then this here would be the parietal layer. Okay, so this here is the Bowman's capsule. This would be the proximal convoluted tubule, and this would be part of the distal convoluted tubule. Okay, and then here's our glomerulus, and these would be the efferent arterioles. Okay, so where blood would then exit out. Okay. One thing, a couple things I didn't mention about the bladder. So the muscle that makes up the bladder is known as detrusor muscle. So it'd be found like in this area here. Okay, so that's the muscle that is found in the bladder. And then there are two sphincters. There would be an internal urethral sphincter and an external urethral sphincter. So we have conscious control over the external urethral sphincter there. Okay, so those are all the major structures you need to know. Oh, and let me go through this model as well. So here we have our renal corpuscle. Okay, this here in orange would be our proximal convoluted tubule. Then we go into our descending limb, which again has a thick and a thin region. This whole thing is our nephron loop. And then in blue here, this is our ascending limb. So this in blue here would be our distal convoluted tubule. Then we have our collecting duct. These are paratubular capillaries. Our collecting duct in yellow. And then at the very bottom here, it would become the papillary duct. Okay. And you could see we have a cortical nephron and a longer juxtamedullary nephron there. Okay, so this here, down here, would be the vasa recta. Okay, so it covers the juxtamedullary nephron. Okay, and you could see them down here as well, so the vasa recta.